7th series of our show. Today we will be talking about Black women and disabilities, and I'm really, really excited to announce that we have got Liz Okokon here with us today. So Liz, could you let us know a little bit about yourself, please?
Hi everyone. I'd say my number one position is I'm a trade unionist. I came into the NHS by birth. I'm a proud Windrush daughter. So my mum and dad actually have something in common with Coulson's statue in Bristol. Coulson was the slave owner in the area where my dad was born in Nigeria. So from east of Nigeria. And when we've done the history and the genetics of my family, it turns out that my mum and dad met in Birmingham, but they genetically were related because the slaves that went from Nigeria, from Africa to the Caribbean came from mostly West Africa. Mm-hmm. And Nigerians turned up in Barbados when we sort of generally think that Jamaicans came from Ghana. So that's something we found out genetically because, it all comes down to science with me. Science is real, unlike Trump's ideas. And I've always wanted to be a scientist ever since I grew up. So my mum and dad coming to England to work in the NHS sort of inspired me, I guess, to work in the NHS. And I've spent 36 years now working in the NHS. But number one, I've always been an activist. Mm-hmm. So I started working after uni. I joined what is now Unite the Union, and I've been through Unite as ASTEMS, Amicus, MSF. So I've been through all the different versions of Unite as a rep.
Right, so Liz, in terms of you working for the NHS, what is your role within the NHS and what have you been doing during the pandemic?
Okay, so nothing. Sadly, January 2020, I retired out of the NHS due to health concerns. And it's basically saved my life because before then I was working myself to death in trust after trust. That was gaslighting. I'm going through a bullying, harassment, personal injury claim at the moment. I'm sort of like holding on basically. And I've had the support of my union, activist sisters mainly, activist sisters in the Labour Party, and my family have been really strong. I'm a family of Amazons, of fighting women. But that doesn't mean that we can always keep fighting, and we should have to keep fighting because it's exhausting. The racial trauma that my family's gone through. I was kind of lucky in the way because I was a senior person in the NHS for the last 15 years, and I've just been talking to my union regional office. I'm the co-vice chair of the London and Eastern Health Sector in Unite the Union. And I'm really proud to be working with Unite. It's one of the biggest health sector unions. But what we were just talking about was how exhausting it is having to fight racism on a daily basis for yourself, but also for the members that you're trying to represent. And we talked about this glass ceiling. We talked about the snowy white peaks, which is something that, I work in the London Trust. I've worked in London Trust all the time I've been working in the NHS. And on the ground, I know everyone I pass on the corridor, in the catering, cleaning, on the wards. We're just overly represented by a really diverse and beautiful, really hardworking workforce. But at the top, on the boards, managing the trust, it's all snowy and white. And it's male, pale and stale. But it wasn't always like that. And I have to sort of make the NHS into two bits before and after privatisation. So before 2014, 2010 to 2014, when Labour was leaving, Labour left us the legacy of privatising and outsourcing health sector stuff. And that's why I feel that we've really struggled in Britain as one in the top 4 worst countries in the world, despite having a really wonderful NHS. The death rate of 120,000 dead with an NHS that's free at the point of need. Why is that? What is the problem there? And as a Black woman, disabled person, and as an activist, I have to say it's outsourcing.
Yeah.
The NHS isn't the NHS when it's not a national health service free at the point of need. And what we're finding is that the people who are at the front line, the people who have been overexposed and underprotected have nearly all been Black, you know, representing a group of porters who literally all the dead bodies were being wiped down and prepared for the crematoriums for the funeral directors by Black workers at the lowest pay.
Yeah.
And they're
So Liz,
in black paper bags, plastic bags at that time. Yeah,
so
sorry,
Liz, what do you
I did
think?
go on a bit.
No, it's all right. What do you feel should be happening within the NHS for Black workers now? What do you feel is the most important issue for these particular members, ma'am?
Yeah, so to me, we've fought as Labour activists for equality law. And I know you've got some contact with the law, and I appreciate you. And I think you're a wonderful sister. And I think that's, you know, you're an inspiration to our young people. You're a lovely smile there, sister. Anyway, so the law should be something we should be all, you know, when we talk about equality, everyone should have access to this, and everyone should, but we have to remember we're talking about equity. It's lack of ability to get access to certain things. So if the law says that you can, it's illegal for you to be discriminated against because you're disabled, but only if you've got money can you get a lawyer to deal with your disability discrimination. Only if you've got money can you get a lawyer that will fight for you no matter what for your race discrimination. What is the point of a law that is not equitable? Yeah. So 2010, we've got the 9 protected characteristics, but they're not protected and they're not equally protected. And that's where, you know, as an activist, I've been fighting, because as a union activist, we pay union dues like we pay home insurance. We're not, you know, not to be disrespectful to our unions, but it's one of the reasons why we join unions is that when we have trouble, we've got lovely Andrea or somebody to Liz to fight our corner. But then when we have to take things to the further, we're literally left on our own. And I was looking at the figures yesterday for women and girls, violence against women and girls, to have 3% of rapists convicted. What is the point? What kind of, how can you say that's a legal service? So we're in a situation as union members and health care workers, as frontline workers, where when things go rough for us, we can't turn to the law. And our unions are basically shutting that door, because if your union says, well, it sounds like you've got a racism case there, Liz. Sounds like bullying harassment because of your race. It sounds like discrimination based on race. Even discrimination based on disability is got more likely to win. So because the courts really don't appreciate or understand racism, you can't win. And I've been told that at the top of the union. I've had to take it out with the top of the union. And they know my name now, because, you know, I'm not just fighting for me, that's selfish, I'm fighting for all of us. When there's no point in being in a union that every year you go to conference, or every other year, or whenever you go as a conference delegate, you've got less and less people looking like you there. It's not because we're not members, it's because we're being thrown out quicker than we're coming in. And, you know, what we're finding is that that 60% of the people in the health sector that are Black have been disciplinary, being disciplined. And it's really like, you know, and I keep saying that it's like the police, the way that we have stop and search, it's like rape that's just been ignored. And it's like our children who are constantly being picked on in school. Oh, you've got afro. Well, you know, you need to do your afro. Oh, you've got plaits. Well, you need to do your plaits. I think, well, how is it that our children are getting excluded for something as petty as how their hair looks?
Yeah,
Have they done their homework? That's the important things that teachers should be focusing on. And they say they've got zero tolerance of behaviour, and they call behaviour basically anything that's Black. Our young people are so full of energy and full of vitality and full of talent, and that's been stamped out of them by the time they're in year 7. And by year 8, they've gone through the trauma that us grown-ups shouldn't have to go through. By year 8, they don't know who they are or where they are. And that's why we're seeing serious youth violence and the things that we're seeing, that if you can't really win, and your parents really haven't got the time to fight such petty, it looks like a petty thing to your parent.
Yeah.
But we have to have National Hair Day now in January.
Yeah.
Because we have to own our Black hair. I mean, that hair is ridiculous. And this isn't my normal hair, which is my daughter pulled out my plaits the other day. I'm roots and culture. I'm gone back to nature. But my daughter pulled out my plaits the other day and did a wash and blow dry. But yeah, I'm normally, you know, just down with my plaits, sister. Yeah. But that's something we shouldn't have to own.
Yeah. So Liz, in terms of campaigning, what have you been doing this year?
Yeah, so this year, this year from March 2020, March 2020, we were just after a terrible defeat that Labour had. And for me, and most of us on the left, the biggest defeat was loss of leadership. A leader that would stop at nothing to fight for comrades, who led by example. You know, we've got rules in the Labour Party, but he worked those rules into our values, our Labour values, going back to Keir Hardie and the reason why we have a Labour Party in the first place, so that it's democratic and it listens to the members' voice. So the campaigns that we fought for the 2019 election, in January 2019, we were out there as women, as Black sisters. We organised a community networking meeting with some of our fabulous new Labour Black women. We had Belle come as she's a local MP to me. She stood in the seat that Chuka Muna Ranatu. I was shortlisted or longlisted for the same seat because I felt it was important that we had not just Black representation, but we had socialist Black representation. As soon as I met Belle, I thought, I'm moving over. Sister, I'm with you. And I went out campaigning with Belle. We went out and got people to register to vote because we were told at that time only 25% of our young people were registered to vote. How are we going to make any difference? How are we going to change anything if we're not even going out and voting? So it started last year as what we're going to do. Instead of talking, what actions are we going to take? And we had Belle saying, whatever you're doing, we're behind you. And we had evictions, deportations happening at the beginning of 2020, where people who've been brought up for all their lives from 3 to 10 years old were being deported to a country that they didn't know, to people that they had all died. So we had that at the very beginning. We had serious youth violence being shown to be because of in-work poverty. So we're working our asses off and our kids are still struggling and we're still in poverty after all of that. 60% of the people working are in poverty. Where did that come from? What's the point in going out of your house and coming home and being hungry, or going out of your house and coming home and saying, do I eat or do my children eat? So we also are living in really crappy housing. And we had all of those things because you're a housing activist and really I'm really pleased to have met you and a couple of other Black housing activists, because our agenda should be to highlight the plight of the hidden homeless. There's a lot of people that have been dreadfully treated by COVID living on the streets, but 3 times the number that you see living on the streets, the visibly homeless, there's 3 times more hidden homeless young people that are surfing, that are living at in-laws or grandparents. And when you've got a COVID pandemic where you've got to socially distance, where are you going to go? I have to look at my son's small bedroom, and whenever I think of COVID and working from home and isolating, I think of my son's small bedroom and 4 people in that room. And those 4 people might not have anything, they might not like each other, they might just be blood relatives, but they're stuck in there. 2 of them are trying to do homework, one of them's trying to work from home, and the other's trying to beat the hell out of the other one. How bad it is. So the last year, for a lot of poor people, that they're all trying to do something on the internet that they're having to pay out of their own mobile phone, and they're so stressed by being stuck together. I mean, I'm lucky that I can be in one room and my partner and my children could be in another room, because we could kill each other, really. The stress of it is too much for so many families. And we saw that expressed on this weekend, where women had, for the first time actually since the lockdown, and said this violence against women was the first thing we saw with the lockdown. This can't happen. This can't happen. But when you look at all the legacy benefits, they're all connected now to the man of the house. When does the man of the house organise your bills? The man of my house doesn't know where my bills are. Who do you get your phone from? Where do you get your electricity from? Really? It's women that are doing the work and doing the housework. It's they're doing the housework of managing and now we're teachers as well.
No, exactly. Exactly.
And we're carers. My mum and my sister, I'll talk about COVID later, but yeah, we're carers now as well.
Yeah. No, thank you, Liz. Like you've brought up some really good points here, Liz. And the activism work that you've been doing and the things that you've been bringing up, especially about homelessness and stuff like that, it just goes to show that there's so much going on, especially for women during this time. So what do you feel we should be doing as women currently, and especially as a disabled women? What do you feel are the most important things that we should be working on at the moment?
Okay, so the first thing, my sisters are going to hate me for this, but it's the truth. We have to get hold of a brother's hand and hold it, because our brothers are committing suicide and are going through mental health problems in such numbers. This is before COVID. I was writing about suicide, male suicide. As a union rep, we're across all the different sectors in Unite, and we've got builders and we've got construction workers, we've got people from the sort of heavy industries, as well as the care services, NHS and teaching, etc. And it was just really heartbreaking to find out that men haven't got the sort of sitting and chatting like we have, and they often would literally jump before they sit and talk. So I became a mental health first aider in 2018, and then the first patient I had was me.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, but the fact is that our brothers, especially Black brothers, are not getting any of the advantages that, not that there's many, but they're not getting any of the advantages that Black women are getting. Even the fact that we're, in these jobs, frontline jobs, etc., we're lucky to get those jobs almost, because Black brothers aren't getting them, and they're still, they're really excluded from a lot of things. They're criminalised by the police, they're criminalised by the employers, they're an object of fear. And that's the reason why we saw George Floyd and other brothers, being tasered before you stop to talk to them in this country. Remember the brother in Manchester, sister behind you from Manchester, the guy who was at the thing and he had a 3-year-old child in his hand, and they tasered him anyway, and the child thought he was being murdered. How many times do you have to see our brothers being held down on the ground. And then we saw a young white woman for the first time. They saw what we feel, you know, on Saturday, in that while the police pinned down that white activist who was fighting violence against women by police.
Yeah, I know. Are
we laughing? You know, how ridiculous can it get? So as an activist, the first thing I think we need to do as Black women, we need to also work with Black men's groups. We've got West Indian and African Caribbean and other fathers groups. We should work with them. You know, we should try to work across our sex, so that we do our women's things, but we also bring in our brothers, because to this family in this village needs all of us to put our hands to the plow to fix it. Our young people do need their dads. You know, we don't have to, you know, we're not being radical to say that. They need men in their lives as role models. Not that women, you know, my mum brought us up, there's 3 daughters she's had. She brought us up without my dad because he died when we were young, and 3 of us went to uni. So single mums are absolute warriors. We're queens. We are, you know, we can do anything, but we shouldn't have to do everything. We can do anything, but we shouldn't have to do everything. And our young people sometimes will sit down with the wrong kind of brother to talk to about their problems, instead of, you know, a positive role model. When I first came to London, I worked with mentoring, a Black mentoring scheme, and they paired girls with women and boys with men. But there was always a shortage of men in positions of any kind of job, really, that they would be able to be positive role models for those young men. And we need to bring those Black mentoring schemes back, run by us, for us. We've got a lot of things that we do that we're having to beg for. You know, we pay our taxes, we pay our council tax, we're representatives, we're councillors, we're candidates, we're activists, we're going knocking on doors for every Tom, Dick and Harry. But when we say, can we have a few quid for a youth group that we run for our children, by our children, it's like, oh, wait for, you know, the other white women to come along. I'm not being disrespectful, because the sisters know I've said this. You know, if disabled people have our policies done by us, for us, why can't Black families, why can't Black communities run schemes, education programs, campaigns by us, for us? Why can't we do it ourselves? But that's why we need to forget the fight we had last night and come together. You know, we've done a lot of fighting amongst ourselves, and we really need to find ways to work together. You know, you and I might not agree on some political point, but we accept that we disagree, and we think of the things that we have in common.
Yeah.
And we work together as Black socialists and as Black women socialists and Black sisters. You know, some of the things that I disagree with my Black sisters, we've put it aside because we need each other. So we need to do that with our brethren as well. So now, my son says, don't sound street, Mum. But, you know, so because our young children, like I said, this the work in work poverty is telling on them, and they're turning to the wrong people to get that mentorship that they do need. You know, they'll come to my daughter goes to my sister. She's got my grandmother. You know, they don't necessarily want to work with their mum or their dad, but people need mentors, and if they get the wrong mentor, they'll go the wrong way. So we have to find ways to support each other. And when they get in jobs, join a union, please. Because I know how many times do people come and say, Sister Liz or Auntie Liz, can you help me with my this? So, are you in the union? Well, I can help you, but then what happens when we get out of this room? You know,
it's true.
You have to do something collectively for it to work for you individually. You know, we try. All of us are working as if we're the only person going through this. And when we think of it, Asians don't do it, Jews don't do it. You know, even disabled, we're working in community with each other. but as Black people, we're not doing things together, and that's allowing them to make up nonsense, to make up this stuff that, you know, I mean, even Meghan Markle's suffering.
So Liz, in what way can you, what way do you feel that we can start working together? What tips would you give us as a Black community?
Yeah, okay. So think of a project. I think we started in our women's group talking about holiday hunger. And because we ended up with all this, well, we have to go to the council, we have to beg somebody for this, that, and the other. You know, we've got money in our community, and we've got loads of catering in our community. And while we're even in this lockdown position, people are still cooking and people are still eating. And the food that's left over should be going to work as the community kitchen. We should be working in community kitchens. We should be doing whatever we can, like our Sikh brothers and sisters. I've worked crowdfunding for one of the Sikh groups that have gone to Dover when those people were stuck at Dover. They've gone to all the homeless shelters and they've fed people that are out in the cold. You know, that's what we should be doing for our Black young kids. And mental health and well-being. You know, we have to say this is a mental health clinic or this is a mental health project at the door, so that when people come, they don't have to feel shame or embarrassed or whatever it is. Let it out. You know, we need to share that, because we're carrying, you know, all of us are carrying decades of trauma. I have to say, it's in our genes. This trauma is something we're carrying. We've got separation anxieties, we've got young traumas, that the things that our children, and we've seen, other societies have become serial killers, you know, and we still smile and we still get up and we still go and have a shake it at carnival and the rest of it. Positive thinking and community we can still do, despite all the hardships we go through. So to stop the you know, it causing us internal ill health, we should be doing health and mental health community projects. You know, the specific things that we know, like diabetes and blood pressure, that sickle cell, for example. We started off in my mum's community back in the 80s. They started off with sickle cell as a networking action. And then from there you had Black pregnancy support. You know, if we had that, we, you know, so many of my mum's friends are midwives, ex-nurses, and we could support our own young people going through that, because they do look at us and say, oh, stop fussing, you know, just, it's only a baby. You could drop one with it when you're picking rice, picking cotton. You know, well, that's not what the girl in the bed next door's facing. So why should I have to go through that? Why shouldn't I get pain relief? I had 2 kids with no pain relief. And the doctor then still said, oh, are you the nanny? I thought, hang on, I've got the scars to prove it, love. You know, so we need to, health projects, we can do that as Labour, BAME networks. We can work with the next community group next to us, wherever they are, even outside of London. We should be definitely doing that. We've got some really strong activists outside. We've got Sister Echoer there, she's working with people in Manchester. We've got Brother Claude, who's working with people in Leeds. He's my Chapeltown king, you know, taking the Black community, build our own houses, build something for ourselves, and then build a family from there. So take the health things out of the government's hands, bring it back into the community. You know, we had these things in the 80s, then we lost GLC and all the city financing, and we were sitting there going, oh, we've got no money now, but we've got plenty of money when it comes to a jump up or a holiday in Barbados or something. So we should put that money back into our community, especially now we're locked up with each other. So we need a political action plan. We need to have that. That's how we had the sort of what they call the Black Sisters, Black Girl Magic, that Obama, the next seat of the Obama, the seating of Obama, they managed to get Black women into the judiciary, into positions of power, and into the Senate and House of Representatives, because A, they put Black money together, the NAACP, put money together, and B, they said, well, okay, we're going to have a rave or whatever, but when we do that rave, we're going to get everyone to register to vote. If it wasn't for the sisters in Georgia, that election just now would have gone to Trump, you know? So much political power we have. And we need to remember that we have political power, but also put our money where our mouth is. And, you know, and then put that money into strong candidates like you and like Ekwa. I hope you both be standing, and I'll be happy to support you campaigning. So, yeah, so I've talked a lot, but really I'm saying that as Labour and communities and trade unions, we can do things together as Black people to address the inequalities we have in our own community, and then take it, you know, take it back to our young people to face and challenge the things like mental health, mental well-being. Yeah.
Thanks, Liz. And yeah, finally, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Can you just tell us what you're going to be doing? What you're going to be doing in the nearer future? And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. You know, I was really pleased last year. Throughout the whole of last year, I met Labour Black Socialists, and you know, I think it was the most important thing that has happened to me politically, because you know, you work with Black people and your allies in the trade union movement. You work with Black people and allies in your Labour Party. You try to achieve certain things, and then you feel like you're pedaling backwards. I got a bike last year. I'm going to get on it this year. You're pedaling backwards just to stay still. I was the women's officer in my CLP, and I managed to form the Women's Forum, and now Women's Forum is a branch. But one of the things that I tried to instill was that we're in a community that's 50% BAME, Black, Asian, minority, and if we're using proportionality for women in anything in Labour and anything in the trade union movement, so in your CLP, 50% of the executive must be women. So in the Women's Forum, I said 50% of the executive must be Black women. And I put that in as a policy with me in the chair, abusing the chair, whatever you like. And I had it written down. But this year, we've got a different women's officer, and they're challenging me that we didn't agree to have Black women. You know, I mean, wow. Yeah, so we end up losing any kind of, so that, what does that do to the Black members?
Yeah,
they think,
exactly.
Oh, can't be asked. We've lost all the activists that I was working with the last 5 years. They're not even returning my emails. They've, you know, when they came to vote with me, they couldn't because they weren't members anymore. You know, I mean, that's ridiculous. You can't be something, achieve something, and then have to go backwards. Same with our BAME branch, our allies, our white comrades say, we all get along, we don't need a BAME forum, we don't need, you know, but I thought, well, why is it that I go to a meeting and I'm the only Black person there? And there's 3,000 members. Why is that? You know, opposite is a mosque. None of my Muslim brothers and sisters are here because you're meeting in a pub. So I had to challenge, we had to challenge where we met, we had to make it inclusive, we had to make it accessible for our disabled comrades as well, for women who had caring needs, for carers who had carers needs, you know, because you can't always have meetings at 7 o'clock at night going on till 10 o'clock shouting at each other. You know, Saturday afternoon is where we moved all of our meetings for the equality strands. And now they're all moving back. You know, the rollback is harder to face than the push forward, because pushing forward is something we did together. So working with Labour Black Socialists is across BAME forums, and we've now made BAME branches so that we're getting to a position where we can elect our own BAME representatives and our disability representatives in Labour. So that's where, you know, I stood as the NEC disability campaigner. in November-ish, sort of last year, but supported by Labour Black Socialists. I was honoured to work with you guys. Where are we going to go next? You know, stop talking about statues and start dealing with police harassment. Put them. We don't need more police on the street. The man who killed the woman, the young lady, is a copper. How many more cops do we need? And my sister's a teacher, and now she's a head teacher, and it's really important we try to get black schools together, black supplementary schools together, whatever it is that we can do in our community to support our young children's education. But when it comes to policing, ask Cressida Dick to give us the data that shows that you've got an extra 10,000 coppers and you had less violence, you had less stress. All those stop and searches, they don't lead to convictions. They get less and less. More and more stop and searches leading to less and less convictions. Because if you really were serious about war on drugs, you go to Oxford University dorms, wouldn't you? You could get a load of deal with that. Then before you come after me, brethren. Right? So, you know, deal with what we've got, work with these things together. And if we want Sadiq Khan, we want Andy Burnham, we want these people leading our cities and our councils, put their feet to the fire and demand that money that they save on convictions and all the rest of it goes into our communities. We get it in our hands to help our young people and their education, to keep them off the streets with activity, to support our elders, you know, and keep our community safe and together. But we must match it with our own money, you know. We've got money, use that money in the community. And I just hope that we can carry on working together, sister, and that you know, Labour Black Socialists goes from strength to strength. And you know, and we'll keep keeping Keir Starmer's feet to the fire. We are the opposition. We mustn't forget that we are the opposition. Whether he speaks or not, we are the opposition. We must stand up to Boris. Boris is nicking our ideas.
Yeah,
it's true. If you could tell to the electorate in 2019, Boris is nicking them all. So, you know, we want those policies back. We want socialist policies. We want to make a socialist difference. But we also want to make sure that we're not just looking out for everybody else and leaving our families hungry and cold out on the street. Okay?
Thank you, Liz. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
You know what I was going to talk to you about.
But, what we're going to do now is we're going to pass over to Akua, who is going to tell us what's been going on for the campaign to actively have an anti-racist Labour Party. So over to you, Akua.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Again, it's lovely to have you here and to listen. You have so much experience. It is hard, isn't it? Because you cover so many different campaigns in terms of your experience in the NHS, your experience organising within unions, you know, the work that you've done within the Labour Party. I'm really grateful that you're one of our sisters and you stand shoulder to shoulder with us. So much knowledge and experience. So what am I going to pick up on first? Well, I'm going to screen share our social media just to say where we are with the campaign. Let's get over here. Okay, so I'm into our Instagram. So knowing the work that you've done, Liz, in terms of standing for the NEC Disabilities Officer, we've posted some of the stuff around the social model of disability that I know you've been really promoting on our social media, but I'm just going to step back a bit and have a look at the page generally. I'm going to start somewhere where I think will make Andrea happy. So this post, it shows this was in just over 24 hours. Our last show had 8,490 viewers. We are being heard, and it's amazing. And I wanted to celebrate.
But can I just stop you? What happened to my face? Why
Andrea, the level of vanity I have to deal with, you're just going to have to cope. People are going to be able to do stills on you. Whatever your facial expression is, cope with it. That's what I say. So
I don't mind about the face expression. I meant about the lighting. What the hell happened?
Right. So I'm just going through some of the support. So Camden Momentum, they passed that they would support the LBS campaign for an actively anti-racist Labour Party. We popped that on there. Where else we are? Obviously, we have to look at what's been going on in the news recently and the impact it's having on us as women and as Black women and the intersection. And I think it's a really important point, Liz, that you made about the duality of our responsibility as Black women, also caring for men within our communities and the level of attack. And I think it's something that we need to address with our feminist ally sisters around what that means and how we work with it. It is not such a straightforward, I'm not saying that all sisters say that men are the enemy. So we're also really aware of Black Nurses Matter. Sorry,
that woman died. She died in my neighbouring constituency. So it was really sad, really heartbroken when she was lost. And then to find her, you know, I'm pleased that the sisters went out and campaiged and had a cure for her.
Absolutely.
But we have to remember the Black sisters.
What we're facing is that double trauma. Obviously, we stand in grief with what's happened to Sarah, but we're also really recognising that there is a young Black woman who was lost down in Bexhill, where public outpouring. There's the young woman over in Cardiff now who's been imprisoned for defending herself against a racist attack. You know, I know our activists and our allies are on board, but these are the sorts of actions we're trying to highlight and that we're putting in on our social media. So I'm just going to pause that for a second. This is the latest offering from Labour Black Socialists in relationship to the bill that's being heard Tuesday night. This is the statement that, because the action we can all take right now is to get in touch with our MPs, find out how they vote, how they intend to vote in the future, and really chase that down. So I'm just, if I may, it's only a minute and a bit, Andrea, could I just share this video?
Tonight in the House of Commons, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill is a really worrying development for our democracy and for freedom of speech in this country. Article 11 of the Human Rights Act gives us all the right to come together with like-minded people and highlight things that we think are wrong in the societies that we live in. That right shouldn't be dependent on whether the police think that your cause is worthy.
This bill gives police even more powers to shut down protest, to carry out stop and search without suspicion, and to criminalise the Gypsy Roma traveller community.
It does nothing to protect women and girls. It completely ignores the structural issues of racism that do exist within the police, as in with every institution in our society. This was a chance to do something good, and instead I fear we've really gone in the wrong direction.
If your MP is not voting against this bill, then they are not being actively anti-racist. Tweet them today. This government is trying to build racism right back into the laws of this country. Tweet them, ask your MP to make sure this does not happen.
Okay.
Yeah, good video. Thanks, Akira, for sharing.
You're welcome. So that is, we're constantly trying to link up the activism we're taking with the central campaign that we have. Hang on a second. Of course, now it's playing loudly in the background.
Like music. Remember that any policy that happens, we need to make sure that we've got representation. Nothing about us without us is one of our disability chants, but it's also something that as Black people we must demand. We are voters, and if we vote for Labour, 70%, was it 70 seats that Labour gets from the Black vote? They won't get 70 seats. There will be a black wall that will disappear or melt if they're not careful. We need that representation. They need to be accountable to us. Sitting on the fence isn't good enough.
Yeah.
You know? So nothing about us without us.
But this is also about connecting that with an issue, you know, like the issue in terms of our representation, the issues that we're pushing there are for the benefit of the whole country and the whole party. That's what I think is really important that people forget. They think it's an additional thing that they can do. You know, when everything's better from everyone else, then they'll come and look after us. That's not what this is about. This is absolutely about our voices being a fundamental part of the democratisation of the Labour Party and the country. Thank you. I'm not going to give you any more of our social media, but everyone knows where it is. And at the end, they can find that video on our Instagram, on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and on our brand new YouTube channel. One of our young members have joined us, and she's got us into YouTube. TikTok, watch out.
Guys, thank you, Akiwa.
Thank you.
But also remember that, we must remember that, okay.
Right, so thank you, everybody, and we will see you again next week with more updates and a really special guest. So
thank you so much.
Thanks, Liz, for coming again. And
power to our young people, power to Black activism, and the Labour Party needs to remember where their vote comes from, and nothing about us without us. Thank you.
You tell them, girl. Thanks.